it's got my mic, everything.
Chat not over there. Yep. So that's your greens and whatnot over there. I'm talking into this mic, but it's also picking up over there. So there's going to be really bad. Hey, there's my camera. Okay, that's our camera right there. If you want to talk directly up there, that's your sight line.
Okay.
Act professional. We're being professional right now.
I can put this one here.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing. Really.
It's
But I will,
an upgrade on.
let me try to get that out of there, and then I will just launch up some. Let's get to my. Oh, because I didn't spell it correctly. Khuva Labs, which I have been to. I'm not going to go to the taste one, but I'm going to bring this up. Squeeze it a little bit over. This is how I distract myself. I can see the chat over there if anything happens, but this is where I go over there. If we really need to research who played Tiny Tim in the original stage production of A Christmas
Carol, yes.
You want to know all that stuff.
Curiosity is one of our Achilles' heels, and this does not help.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, might as well get started.
Does that need to be pointed at me, the laptop?
It is.
Oh, it is? Okay.
And then you also just have to trust that. Do you want the preview?
No, that's perfect. I just wasn't sure. That's even better.
The preview makes my wife more nervous than anything, so she hates it. But I love looking at myself constantly. But if you,
I actually also act too. So I don't know if you were like, do you watch football at all on Sundays?
kind of.
So have you ever seen the Charm Diamond Center commercials? Like the proposal, like the guy from Letterkenny?
Okay.
I'm the other guy in the commercials. So I've done like 4 commercials with Charm Diamond Center. So I'll just be sitting at home watching TV on a Sunday and my face pops up. So not seeing myself isn't that off-putting, but it's...
Which would you prefer? Distraction, no distraction?
Cover's perfect. I thought it was angled away, so I was like, because I know I've done enough filming and stuff now where I've like gotten halfway through something like, I didn't turn this on or I didn't. So I'm almost secondhand like crazy about it where I'm always like, is everything have everything? Because, you know, there's nothing worse than being in the middle of like shooting like, did I hit record or did I turn? Yeah, because I like...
It's happened more than once. We've done 300 of these, I think. What are we up to? We're getting close to 300 weeks.
Sweet.
And twice, I had forgotten to turn on his audio.
Okay. Well,
so it's perfectly silent.
If I may, we're coming up on 200.
Is it 2?
Yes, when we did the 100th one with 100 beers, and then the 200 is coming up in the new year, January or something.
You're right.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's still
quite a...
That's still 4 years.
300
number.
beers.
300 beers.
Oh, yeah, I knew.
Oh, yes.
300 comes in there somewhere. Math.
And he missed 2 weeks. One week where he got married.
That's a good week to miss.
Yeah, reasonable.
I tried.
And then you went and had a baby as well. So
Also a good reason to miss.
Yeah.
You're picking the right ones to really put your foot down.
And talking to a few of the other guys,
well, you didn't have the baby, obviously.
Yeah.
I was going to double down on that, but okay. Now that you've given away the ghost, I talked to New Brunswick. Some guys are doing this in New Brunswick as well.
Yeah.
And they're really cool. And he mentioned, so yeah, it's mostly just me now because a couple of the other guys, they stopped doing it.
Right.
Because one of them had a baby, and I went,
Quitter.
Lightweights.
Yeah.
I took a week off.
Yeah.
Kept on going. Anyway, regardless. To start officially, I am Ross. Joining me, of course, is my co-host Ian. I don't know what to do looking at the camera. And we're joined by Luke of Khuva Labs. And together, obviously, we're attempting to drink Nova Scotia Dry.
I'm excited too. Yeah.
But, unlike any other time, well, no, I've surprised you sometimes, but I've told you what it is. I've never said, drink this, you don't know what it is.
Yeah,
This is the first.
when you said a couple of weeks ago, hey, got something lined up here, are you interested? Blind tasting. I mean, my mind went into all places, and I must admit, my mind went into, I literally had myself in a blindfold, visually tasting these and thinking, I don't know what that is, or I know what that is. So when Ian brought them out, and I'm looking at them, I'm thinking, hey, great, this is blind tasting, but at least I can see. So explain the blind tasting part, please.
Yeah, that's kind of what I guess sets us apart from some of the other apps that are playing in the craft beer space right now, is that all the tastings that we do run are blinded, and the main reasoning behind it is what we want to do is avoid unconscious biasing of consumers or of patrons as much as we can control it, right? So one of the things we've noticed as we've been running these tastings going on almost 3 years now is that if people know what they're about to sample, they have all these preconceived biases or thoughts towards it, whether it's the brewery, whether it's the style of beer, whether it's the color. So, I mean, obviously with these ones, we can see the coloring, but for the most part, we don't know what style of beer is in these glasses. And so that's kind of our thing that we try to incorporate in all of our tastings, is the fact that they're blinded, to avoid those exact reasons where, someone won't try an IPA if they think they don't like an IPA, or someone won't try a sour beer if they think they don't like a sour beer, whereas they don't know it until it hits their lips. It's a completely different mindset that they're going into.
We've noticed that the graying of those lines, the blurring of those lines, so we've said that blonde ales taste a little bit sometimes like Kolsch's, or we would say a Kolsch then, just if it's a certain way, merges into another style of beer, and there is definitely a blurring of those lines. So if they're placed in front of you, and also of course you can't, just because you open a can it says a blonde ale, for instance, you taste it and you say, well, it looks a bit like the cream ale we just had last week, etc. It even tastes a little bit like the cream ale, etc. So if they're in front of you, notably these two look extremely similar,
Right.
but my mouth is going to say whether or not I'm preferring those, and then you're saying there's an algorithm that can then dial in to what my taste buds prefer as a result of trying these things, and then I can adapt when I go into the liquor store and say, okay, I've heard that I like this now, so excuse me, do you have anything, or into a craft brewery, say, do you have anything that fits this bill that I really might be into?
Yeah. No, that's kind of the whole idea behind it. Do you have a question?
So I guess that the main question is, and I'll ask it over, what is Khuva Labs? And is Khuva Labs an app, or is it a data collection, or is it a service? You're probably going to say all three.
We kind of do fall under all three, so I guess our official title would be like a sensory data science company. So two of our co-founders have backgrounds in neuroscience. So one of my fellow co-founders, Jeff Ingalls, he did his PhD in dynamic neuroscience. And then Aishani Balder, our other co-founder, she did her Master of Neuroeconomics, both at the University of California, Santa Barbara.
Wow.
And that's where they connected. Jeff was doing, obviously neuroscience as part of his study. Ended up, working on a collaboration with the robotics team at the university for this is a bit of an aside, but basically they were sending a probe into space to take photos of distant planets, and they needed to teach the probe which photos to keep and which ones to, get rid of.
I feel overwhelmingly undereducated.
That's why they sent me. I'm the layman that can somewhat simplify it. Yes, because when they get into all the science, technical side of things,
I knew this was the line we were going to go to. Immediately I sat down. I knew where this was going.
Because if we compared it with our PhDs, we met at grad school doing PhD in stupid things we think of at the time.
And Monty Python sketches and things like that.
References.
Right. So we were in California.
Yeah, and so when he developed this algorithm, he ended up winning an award for it from the Institute of Perception. And this is an institute that works very closely with large multinationals like Labatt and Molson to create these generically likable, inoffensive tasting beers.
Yeah.
So they partner with these major companies to run studies to make sure that a beer is enjoyable by like 80% of the population.
Yes.
It got our team thinking, instead of trying to create a beer that everyone's going to like, why don't we recognize that craft breweries are making unique and delicious beers? Us as individuals have unique and distinct taste profiles. Try to match people to beers that are suited to their own unique taste preferences.
Fascinating.
How unique would you say this would be on a global scale? Like, is this one of the few places that you could probably do this world, or other companies do this? There's one in New York City, there's one in LA, there's one in Shanghai. Is this a...
We've been from what we've come across, no. Recently we came across like a board game for doing blind tastings.
I've seen that.
Where like you can buy this board game, I think on Amazon, bring it to a bar, and do kind of like an analog version of this. We obviously now have our own native web app that we've created, and while the game certainly looks fun, we also have a gamification to our app as well. And so we're
there's a difference between I don't know what this is, ooh, I like that, yay.
Yes.
And oh, that's pretty good, and then all of a sudden, but I voted for this and I've done this, and then it's the data going in the other direction that I could show you the spreadsheets, but I like having data as well to a point. So
Right.
I like mystery, I like trying new things, and I like all the data points at the tail end of it. So this is I was when I found your booth at the Science of Beer at the Discovery Center.
Yep.
I was over the moon. I said, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. This is this should be everywhere.
Well, that's our eventual hope and goal is to kind of be everywhere. So I know there's a beer tasting app that they have over in Germany that runs kind of similar tastings, but they're not always blinded, and there's all kinds of different styles. So we like to think that what we're providing is completely unique across the market. And again, with some of the other apps that are out there, there's a lot of bias tied into those apps. If you're trying a beer that everyone else has ranked 4.5 out of 5 or 4.8 out of 5, you're not going to want to be the outlier that doesn't rank that beer high. Or if you're at a brewery where you just finished an entire tour of the history of how it came to be, and they show you the brewing process, and they pour you a crisp pint right out of like a brand new keg versus having it in a can in your basement in the dark, dingy days of November, you're probably going to have two vastly different experiences sampling that beer. And so we're trying to avoid that as well, where we don't have our beers ranked on a sliding scale. The kind of 3 pieces of data that we capture at the end that are going to be valuable to kind of, breweries, tap rooms, liquor stores is intent to purchase data. Do you like this beer enough that you would consider spending your hard-earned money on it? Craveability. If you couldn't have this beer anymore, would you miss it? So for tap rooms, for beer liquor stores, is it worth keeping this beer on the shelf? If you're going to take it off, are people going to miss it? And then, drinkability. It's just like a solo beer. Like I've got some beers where it's like one pint, I'm done. But like there's other beers where I could drink 4, 5, 6. So again, we try to capture those bits of data right now, but we'll build on that as we, continue to expand.
Almost do that.
Yes.
We almost do that.
Absolutely.
We're very scientific.
Just because you like something, you go, oh, this is wonderful. This is a wonderful beer. We say that I really love this, but I don't want another one.
Yeah.
And that doesn't help the brewers that are trying. They're just units. I say they're just units, but some of them, of course, produce it. Like you said, the big boys want units sold. They're not really interested in whether or not it's the greatest beer in the world. They just want to sell this stuff off the shelves. Whereas your more discerning drinker and your more discerning craft brewer wants people to be interested and genuinely involved with their beer, and so that they might come back again.
Totally.
Yeah.
So to do the test, I don't always have my phone next to me. That's a nice big glowing thing you can't even see. But you do have to go to the KhuvaLabs.com website and do the tasting from there. And so we do have them all lettered. So
Yes.
they're in the Tapestry Beer. Oh, P.S. There's a nice shout out. All in the Tapestry Beer Bar glasses, because here we are at the Tapestry Beer Bar, 833 Lower Sackville Drive. Very good of Ian Smith to house us once more. We will go and have a chat with him again a little bit later. But we've got our GAIF.
Yeah, so that's kind of, and again, proper to shout out Ian. I mean, we've been working with him now coming up on 2 years. He was kind of one of the first places to sort of take a flyer on us and be like, yeah, I think what you're doing is cool. Do you want to come to my tap room? And so we initially started with just doing them as flights. Obviously, we've got flights here tonight, but we've sort of evolved the process now where people can do it as like a pint by themselves. A lot of tap rooms too, when people come in for the first time, they'll give 2-ounce sample pours to kind of say like, oh, hey, like, what do you like? Let me help you find it. This is just kind of more of a guided way to help people discover what they like at your tap room. And then again, instead of like a board game, we'll also track all the beers that you have sampled and indicated that you like. And then essentially what you're doing is teaching our algorithm what you enjoy. And then it goes out and finds other beers that you haven't tried.
Right.
And then can eventually down the road recommend that beer to you within a certain degree of probability and say, Ian, this Pilsner falls under an 80% likelihood that it'll be
Which is
enjoyed by you.
exactly what the same way as your music sites do, or Netflix, except they recommend based on the things that you've given thumbs up to into the past.
Exactly.
So you're honing in on my perfect beer, as it were, at the end of the day, so you've got a better idea. I immediately noticed one thing straight off the bat. Sorry to interrupt. Do we all have the same beers here?
We do, yeah. So we're just like, we can all either do a different beer.
Looks like my G.
I tell you why. It's because of your phone behind. This looks like such a such a light lager, while this to me looks like, I'm guessing, some kind of cream ale or a blonde ale, right?
Well, do you guys want to go ahead and try our first beers, and then I can kind of walk you through what it is.
The
All right,
process?
Let's go with G.
Right.
So
Are we going with
do we hit
G?
G first?
Yeah, so you'll select G, and then you'll hit start sensory tasting. So we can kind of get as granular or as basic as you want. So you'll see on your screen that we've got 15 questions total that we ask. Now, you can skip the first 12 and go right to the bottom if you want to just rate the beer and guess the style. But obviously, we're learning tonight, so let's start with beer G by just going through, giving it a quick whiff, giving it a quick taste, and just kind of judging your initial reactions on what you get from it.
Am I swiping in the right way? I think I'm swiping the right way.
Yeah, so you can swipe yes, no, or maybe. So for this one, it says, do you notice any floral aromas? So for me, I don't have the most distinguished palate, so this is kind of always a bit of a crapshoot for me, but two gentlemen such as yourselves who've drank a lot of beer, I think will probably...
I will maintain straight off the bat that even though I've drunk an awful lot, and I know what I like and what I don't like, I don't have the most discerning palate. I'm learning as I go along. However, a lady that's sat not too far away from me, she's got a better nose for this kind of thing than me, and I've learned that over the last 2 or 3 years.
Next time we come in,
I know.
we'll sit to the side and let Rebecca do it.
I know.
Exactly, yeah.
I think absolutely the same thing.
Well, I think it isn't like there's just, I think women tend to have more like biologically stronger senses of smell than men too.
Is that right?
Again, I
That would explain
think
it
there's, there's a lot of value that we think we can provide with the data that we're collecting from these tastings as well. So, one of the first tastings we had here at Tapestry, one of my good friends, his wife, thought that she didn't like sour beer. She just heard it and was like, oh, sour beer.
I can understand
sounds
that.
gross to me. She had one of she had the Electric City Sour by Tuscan Falls in her blind tasting. It was like, ooh, what's this beer? Turned out to be her favorite that she selected in that flight, and then she ended up ordering a full pint. So that's kind of like the wow factor we go for with this
I
as well.
didn't.
You got the first 5 are about smell.
Oh.
So it's never a bad idea, again, to preserve some of your beer as you go through and answer yes. So to your point, Ian, like Ross, there are a lot of questions that we'll ask. So, do you notice any fruity aromas? Do you notice any floral aromas? Do you notice any vegetal or herbal? Any malty? For this one, I'm getting a decent bit of malt. Then we go to mouthfeel. So how does the body or fullness of the beer feel? So for this, I feel like this is, in my mind, I find it a little full.
It's fuller than I was expecting. Because I was going to say, oh, this is going to be really light. But then I went, no, wait, actually.
It's not.
No.
Holy cow,
To me, it's. If someone says, what sort of alcoholic quantity do you drink? I think we're actually a little stronger than.
It is. I'm getting that feeling too.
Yeah, I would not be drinking 3 pints of this and driving. That's for sure. No, I seriously think so. I think this is kind of a strongish beer to me. I think this is up in the. Is it going to ask that? By the
So
way? It does. Will it
Yeah,
answer
so
it?
basically once you get through to the very end, we have those kind of 3 questions that we ask
Okay.
in terms of, gathering kind of some intent to purchase out. So the first one is, would you buy this beer again? So go ahead. I like to always give it a sip before I answer these questions too.
I'm on 8. What are you at?
Oh, I don't know. Oh, sorry, it's up there in the top right.
Top
I'm
right,
on
yeah.
5.
Okay. You got past smell.
Yes, I'm on the mouth feel.
Okay. So again,
Oh, and I've been drinking it, so I've got to. I'm just learning this. So next time we do one, I should slow down a little bit.
we're all scientists tonight.
It's different from when I did it.
Exactly, and like I was just going to mention that too. Like when you would have come across us at the Science of Beer, we were, kind of doing this in a different style. We were still using, I think we were still using like a different, app source for this. So our web app that we have now has been coded and worked up by Jeff, our co-founder, he was the PhD.
Yeah.
And then Aishani, who has her master's, she also has her UX UI certification. So she's been doing all
Can you
of.
explain the UX wise?
It just means user experience, user interface. So, she helps design websites.
Oh, I
So
see.
She's also got all of her kind of touches on this in terms of like the functionality, the swiping, the ease of use. So we're very fortunate that our team has kind of either learned or been educated in how to create an app, because we're still relatively new and you know,
Yeah.
trying to get financing and bring on investors. So the fact that we can keep a lot of the stuff in house right now
I mean,
is really
it's a slam dunk idea for me, but I guess I like stats and I like beer. So
Yeah.
and I love Nova Scotia, and it's just that was going to be one of my questions. Have you expanded? Is it most of the Nova Scotia focused, and was that just an accident, or is it looking to? Do you go to PEI, the Atlantic provinces? You go to Montreal. Does it encompass more than just our little?
So it's originated here. There's 4 of us total for co-founders. 3 of us are born and raised in Nova Scotia.
Okay.
So that's kind of how things ended up.
You mentioned PhDs in other places, so I was just trying to bring it all back.
Exactly,
to,
yeah. So one.
Guys, I got a great place for our science startup.
Well, actually, so Jeff and Aishani both did their schooling in California, but when they were trying to figure out where they were going to land next, Jeff, obviously being from Halifax, was like, well, you know, I wouldn't hate to go home, but also there's more craft breweries here per capita. There's more craft breweries here per capita than there is in California and Nova Scotia. So that part I also didn't realize either. So when we started with the craft beer idea, you know, we were like, great, there's already a ton of great craft breweries here locally.
And that was 3 years ago?
The company was founded in February of 2021, but we didn't start actually doing tastings until September.
Because I think the per capita has even gone up a little bit.
I mean, we've lost a couple of breweries.
Lost 4,
Yeah.
gained close to 3 or 4.
It's like 70 or something across Nova Scotia, I think. Very close.
It's still just such a huge part of the beer industry here too. So we started in Halifax, obviously. We've now been expanding. So we did our first craft beer week here last month. I think we had 13 locations total that participated in our Mystery Beer Week Challenge.
I wanted to come to that, and I had something else. We do too much.
It was right during like Thanksgiving too, and it was so probably like some learning on our part for when to kind of time these events in the future.
Dark of winter.
Exactly. Well, and that's what we're doing. So we've got one coming up in. So we've got a mystery beer. We're calling them our mystery beer challenges. So we've got one coming up in Toronto, GTA area, November 16th and 23rd. Then we're going out to Calgary. We'll be in Calgary from the 23rd to the 30th for a mystery beer week challenge, and then we're going to finish off from the 30th to the 7th in Edmonton. So that'll probably take us into the holiday season, and then after that, we're looking to kind of go a little more international, get down into the States, the rest of the provinces across Canada. But so far, we've done tastings in New Brunswick, in PEI, and in Calgary.
And typically, bums on seats. How many people would you get to turn up to one of these things? Would it last all day, or is it just an evening?
So, like the challenge was a little bit different, where everything prior to that had either been at like a festival or like a specified event. This one we just had the breweries running it available on their taps or on their menus the whole week. So that was kind of our first time where like we let the breweries sort of have the tool and let them run it sort of how they saw fit in terms of, you know, incorporate it into their regular, you know.
The one here was in the Discovery Center, was it?
Yeah, so the Discovery Center, like I think we had 200 people total that attended that event, and I think we had just under 100 signups that night for the app.
Yeah.
So I mean, we converted almost half of the people that were at that event. We were at the Seaport Beer Fest which is again, you know, slightly less scientific crowd, maybe, let's put it that way. So a little bit hard, and we didn't have a booth, so it was again a bit of a learning process for us then to try to figure out how to contact people, how to approach people on what we were doing. But once we did, people were like, "Oh man, this is super cool." So
this is really cool.
Like most of the nights we've done here at Tapestry, I'd say we average about 30 people, signing up for the app, because like once people understand what it is, and especially if you're here in a group, like the competition aspect kicks in, and because at the end, obviously you can.
I got 6. I got 5.
Exactly. So once we get to the end of the questions, we'll ask you to guess what style of beer. So yeah,
that's where I am now.
Okay, so perfect.
I'm at the trick question of would I buy this beer again?
I know
It's a yes, but not for myself. I would buy this for like 3 friends.
Okay.
So I don't know. I feel like, okay, probably that's still a good would I buy this again? Yeah. Not for me, but I would buy it for my wife.
Well, it's funny because we both have very similar tastes in beer. We tend to head more for the darker ales. I'm interested to see when, I'm assuming there is an IPA going to be somewhere this evening.
Right.
But we've come very late to the IPA game. Whereas before we were like, we don't like IPAs. It's weird how slowly it has evolved over the last 2 or 3 years. So we now know the kind of IPA that we lean towards as well. We like the hazier, the squashier versions.
Yeah.
Rather than the single malt and single hop ones that tends to leave us thinking. And this is about this one here. I'm finding it very dry. I'm finding it really quite. Even though there is a reason about a maltiness to it, I'm finding it just that little bit. I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't buy it for myself for sure. And that's why when you were saying that, you might buy it for your friends because hey, why not buy your friends some interesting beers? Always do that, but I wouldn't buy a 4-pack of these.
The fruity and tangy side of it. I have friends and they really love complex sours.
Yeah.
Where I would put this in a strong sour, and the way I've now just kind of seen this, I'm pretty confident.
So let's see. Bang. 1 for 1 so far. So
What have you said there? That you've just.
I'm not done.
Oh, right. So you were just guessing what it
Yes,
was.
you guess what style you think
Right.
it is. by
Oh, there
swiping.
we go.
Tell me.
Oh, your guess was wrong.
Yes. So you guys perfectly showcased the two outcomes that can happen with that. So obviously,
You're
Ross,
right or you're not.
you guessed correctly. So this one is the unassisted
This is a
triple.
triple from Sober Island.
Exactly.
I could taste the strength of it. We said it right from word go. It's
said
8.5.
Yeah, you called that out right away, which I kind of noticed as well. I was like, this is a strong beer.
It
So
really is.
what we include in the information too is the ABV. Obviously, this is a very strong beer, and then the tasting notes as well. So once you've completed your tasting, you can kind of hit your taste another beer option, or what you can do is go back to your profile. And once you get under your profile, you can keep track of all the beers that you sample. So right now, you're at 100%, but then you'll have a little tastings tracker that will keep track of all the beers that you've tried.
I'll tell you what I'd like to see again, because it was one of the options when you were voting, when you were deciding whether or not it was the Belgian, voting for the Belgian triple or the Hellas. I've never heard of it before.
Yeah.
There was a tap for notes,
Yes.
and I can tap on that.
Yes.
You might not have done this.
No, I didn't see
and
that.
then it describes what each is.
Oh, okay.
We
well,
can
then
do
the
that
next
for if we
one.
want to move to the next
that
beer.
gave me more because because I said I'm not really sure what a Hellas export beer is.
Well, nor did I, but I was thinking to myself, I don't think that's a Belgian double. Oh, triple. Therefore, I'm going to go for the one that I haven't even heard of.
I wasn't sure either, and then it said tap for more information. So I hit tap, and it said a Belgian triple is very fruity, very aromatic, a lot of this, and very strong. And I went, and then I went down to Hellas export beer, and it said it's more malty, it's more this, and I went, that's not what was happening right there. That
You're
was
smart man.
definitely
You're a
the-
smart man.
I clicked on
You're
this.
in the background.
Would I like to see more? Is
And
what
I completely forgot that we had that feature too. So thank you for reminding me of it because I didn't even realize it was in the functionality until being on a call 2 weeks ago with our team where they showed it to me and I was like, where's this? And they're like, it's right on all the things. I was like, oh, I was like, awesome. I didn't realize that you could
Yeah.
click on the
Yeah,
side.
yeah,
So again, we're trying to make it approachable for the beer connoisseur, someone that knows their beers very well or knows their styles in depthly. But we want it to be fun and easy for people that are just getting into craft beer and are learning what they like in their profiles as well.
That's excellent.
That's the things going on.
This is good.
You ready for A?
Yeah, so he got the first one correct.
Oh, Ross did. I did.
He did. But I there was a little spot that it says, "Would you like a hint?" And I clicked on that, and it gave me the hint that allowed me to get it right. Because otherwise, I probably would have been doing exactly what he did. But now we know how it totally works.
It's like a phone a friend almost.
Well, I've already used mine then.
A little bit like that.
Taste another beer. I just clicked on.
Hey.
Quite useful.
Yeah, you can do A, or you can switch to one of the other 2 letters that are on there too if you want to try a different
Is there
one.
any relevance at all to the lettering? No, none
Just the
whatsoever.
red, just because we want to keep it as random as possible.
Makes
If
sense.
people thought that A stood for amber ale, then they might start thinking this or that. And so
Yeah.
when we set the breweries or tap rooms up with the software, they can add the beers as they see fit. So if they want to have 4 beers in, 8 beers in, we can do up to 26 beers kind of with the current
Yeah.
setup and functionality because it's obviously a letter. So once we get into like beyond 26, it'll be more like beer 2A, beer
Yes.
2B, which again, for some of the larger tap rooms and free houses, especially like across the country, we think there's a lot of value that we can provide them as well, where they've got sometimes 60, 80, 100 beers on tap. What forms of data are they able to collect from just their, POS sales?
Yeah.
This way we can get a little bit more granular with how some of the data is tracked and, maybe if they're trying to get rid of certain beers that they've had on keg for a while and it's like, hey, what if we could throw some of these beers into a mystery tasting and maybe move through inventory quicker than we would have? there's all these kind of different functionalities and applications that we think breweries will discover on their own with using this, and then we're slowly moving into prototyping the ability to do these tastings at home as well.
Yeah. I was going to
I
ask
like the idea of asking other people. Have you done a Khuva Labs? What's your Khuva Labs score? You know, where are you at?
Yeah, it's like about 80.
Cool little, yeah.
And like we want to have like again sort of like we want a community aspect to it and a gamification aspect. So as people go through and do more tastings, like we'll have certain levels where people will reach, you know, X amount of tastings means you're this level of beer connoisseur. Getting this percentage point or higher of beers guessed correctly would have you at, you know, the wizard level of beer tasting. So we want it to be fun, we want it to be a community. So like to your point where maybe that first beer isn't ideal for you, but you're able to search up your friends on here and say, oh, Bob actually, you know, seems that he would be suited to this beer. Maybe I'll order him a pint and send it to him, or I'll send him a coupon to try one off at his local, or try one at his local tap room.
Yeah.
Because eventually what we'll be able to do with the data we collect is go to breweries, go to liquor stores and say, hey, here's a sect or a group of people that we've identified that have tried this beer and said that they'd consider for future purchase. Do you want to contact them with a custom offer? And then conversely, we'll be able to say, we've identified this group of people that are suited to this beer, but haven't tried it. Do you want to contact them with an offer to try it, either at a tap room or at a home taste?
I had a pipe dream of a brewery calling us up and saying, you're the only ones who ever liked this vanilla ice cream cone scoop stout. Would you please come and buy all of it?
Oh, the Pine Tree Christmas sale.
That's the dream.
Is this
I'll be right there.
are they they didn't throw any wild cards in here. Are these all Tapestry beers or any guest ales here?
Yes,
this evening?
no,
They're all
yeah,
Tapestry ales.
so Tapestry does brew their own beer, but
Yeah.
I believe these are all from different local breweries.
Oh, they're right,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
gotcha.
So, like-
because Sack Vegas, of course, is
is part of the Tapestry.
over there in the
brand.
corner.
Yeah.
right. That a little bit
That's it right there.
And so, like, obviously, if you're at a tap room in Nova Scotia, most of them are only licensed to serve their own beer. So it will likely usually just be that brewery's beers that you're sampling. But again, there's still a ton of value in, you know, organically exposing people to new beers that they might not have tried, because if they come to your tap room, they're going to be like, oh, I'll get the usual. I'll have the ale, I'll have the lager, I'll have the pilsner.
It was even still curious for me at the Science of Beer exhibit, because I think all of the tastings that I was guessing, they were all ones that were available at each of the booths. They were what had been brought in, and I got stumped. I got fooled a couple of times on things that were my favorites, and I said, "Oh, okay, I didn't realize that." And it just happened every now and then. But one of the things that has really happened to us since doing this was,
Do you notice
I said,
fruity aromas?
the reason I wanted to do this
no,
was
or maybe.
I want to try all the different beers and see what everyone's making. Because there's some curious stuff, and we had a couple of craft breweries in our basic locations. Someone would say, oh, I made a new thing. And I said, ooh, that's something you can do. You know, just out of the blue. I didn't know that craft breweries were doing this thing.
Yeah.
I made a new one this year. And I went, oh, okay, try it. And I tried it, and I was like, oh, yeah, I really like that. And what about that other one? Oh, we don't make that anymore. But I wanted to try what everyone's got. And so finally, people would say, oh, we've got this IPA. And I went, oh, I tried an IPA once and I didn't really like it. Ugh. And that stuck with me until we started doing this.
Yeah.
And then now we make it a rule. You gotta try.
Yeah.
And you gotta try sour beers. And we're like, we don't like sour beers. And they said, but it's a beer. Nova Scotia's making it. We have to try it. We have to just get it out there. We haven't liked all of them, but I've found a few. And I've said to myself, I didn't think I was going to like this.
But the funny thing is, the Belgian doubles and triples, the Belgian ales can be a soury. They can taste very sour. They're those lambic ales, and I've in the past I've liked the Belgian bitters.
What did you think of that one?
I didn't love it. That's what I'm saying. I found that a little more sour than I was comfortable with.
I liked the sour, and I don't often like a sour, but I did like it. I think I liked it because of the body.
It was, definitely.
It wasn't
There was a lot going on. But was it triple or double? Which one?
Triple.
It was a triple.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's why.
But like all the things you're saying are exactly lining up with what we've already kind of witnessed out in the market too, right? Like people not knowing what they're going into, or saying, oh, I've tried an IPA before, I don't like IPAs. Well, what they don't know is there's a 1,000 different ways you can create an IPA, and they're all different types of IPAs, like a session IPA versus a double IPA is a completely different experience.
Yes.
A rye IPA.
Yeah.
So of my favorites that we found, just by trying everything, black IPA, all the time in Norfolk.
Weird, that, isn't it?
Rye IPA,
Yeah.
so good. We tried a brute IPA. There's like things that are just being invented. And I said, yes, every time someone says, oh, we're going to make an IPA, but it's going to have this little other style of something to it, like not just a basic IPA. So I think finally I managed to nail it down to, if it's the smash IPAs, the single malt, single hop,
Yeah.
those are the ones that I like the least.
Okay.
That one style. But outside of that, someone says, hey, try a double IPA. I went, oh, is this going to be twice as bad? No, it is not. Somehow this is delicious. What's going on? Oh, would you like a triple IPA? Would you like a quadruple IPA? Why do these get better the more the multiplication happens? This is very odd.
And it's like there's a bunch of different, combinations that go into sort of, helping people discover these beers. So the name of Khuva kind of comes from the joining of two words. So there's Kora, which is the KH part of our name, so we're Khuva Labs. So Kora is Plato's word for space, and Uva is the Latin word for grape, because we were initially going to start this idea with wine, but then decided to pivot to the craft beer scene because we enjoyed craft beer more.
So spaces, and this is an area that you can come and...
Yeah, so essentially like without getting too scientific, the algorithm that Jeff created, essentially in this two-dimensional space exists beers and people. As you add more beers, everything moves around. As you add more people, you ideally have people getting situated or placed closer to beers that are suited to their own taste preferences. So for your particular taste preference, you're going to move away from those IPAs that you don't enjoy, that you tell us that you don't like.
And in theory, that happens, because something that where we read on the can and we read the description, and then we try one Pilsner and then another Pilsner, and they almost feel like day and night.
Yeah.
We say, what's going on? Something is going on with this one, and someone will say, oh, this is an American style red ale, and we're like scratching our heads saying, oh, okay, that's fun, and that just, where oftentimes when you hear an American style means, oh, it's got more of a hop profile. Than where a red ale would lean away from a hop profile.
But then one brewer's idea of an American style red ale is not necessarily the same as we found out as well, that they are talking to
Don't envy your algorithm creator because it's
especially like at the end where we pick, like when you pick between the two styles. So when we enter in a beer into the app, obviously we're putting in the beer name, the brewery name. We use the name's escaping me for the styles, but we use like the brewmaster or like the craft beer style list.
Yeah.
So we've got hazy IPA, double IPA. So we try to add as many of the styles as we can to the app.
Yeah.
So when people are inputting the beers, they are able to kind of eventually section those down to like hazy IPAs versus double IPAs versus session IPAs.
And we found there was, looking at the Canadian Craft Beer awards there, back in, was it March time or something? We went across and there was 65 or 70 different recognised styles of craft beers being brewed in Canada.
and they all had descriptions.
Yeah.
And we've gone back to that now and then, saying, okay, what are we supposed to be drinking right now? And we go back to sort of this, what Canada seems to think is this is how this should go.
Yeah.
But once or twice, I know of one, we've tried some styles that aren't recognized yet.
Right.
So the quote is kind of yet. There's a couple that we tried a couple of years ago, a white stout.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, I've had one of those.
Yeah.
Looked like that.
Yeah.
And it was the most bizarre experience. And there's no, it isn't a style yet. And I'm not sure that the Brute IPA is a style yet. It's one of the IPAs that I
Would you
tried.
consider that sweet?
It's not quite there yet. But I like that there's space for that. And we tried one Chipotle. No.
Sweet.
Was it a Chipotle porter? Meander River was doing it.
Okay.
And it won the 2019 Brewery Awards for the what was it?
It was the unique. It was the sort of the most sort of unique style. I think that we certainly got.
So it's one of those things where alternative music got its name and got its vibe and theme because it couldn't be described as anything else.
Right.
So you've got your categories of IPA,
Specialist or
and then all of a sudden
something
you've got, okay, wackadoodle. And you've got wackadoodle beers. And you're like, oh, you're the number one wackadoodle beer. Well done. And you're like, okay, but why are you comparing my cucumber mint lager to somebody's upside down fruitcake with an arrow through its head stem?
Right.
And it's kind of, we're both in the wackadoodle style because it's
However, if the algorithm has been set, if you are going through and you are describing this, if you are able then, if you're at home, like you said there, if they're evolving this thing, these things, so that you can do this thing at home, if you then are picking out the notes that you are picking up on and putting them into your software, I would imagine eventually it would say, with all these things you put in there, we recommend you try X, Y, Z because this is hitting a lot of the.
You're bang on. Like essentially, you're teaching the algorithm what you like.
Yep.
So if you do find yourself enjoying one of these unique style beers that is maybe a one-of-one production in your home province, doesn't mean that there might not be a similar version that they got inspiration from across the world. So we might be able to help you connect with a different beer that you didn't think was even else available. You're like, oh, I didn't know that somebody else did a Chipotle stout or Chipotle porter.
Yeah.
And then conversely, oftentimes too, like with some of the data we've collected in the past, people that tend to enjoy those more unique or more kind of niche style of beers, they tend to like multiple of them. So even though you might not have a beer that's generally loved by the masses, you're still able to find people that are suited to enjoying it, that tend to enjoy lots of beers when they do drink them.
That's landed me on question 14, which is, would you miss this beer if you couldn't have it anymore?
Yes.
And I'm on A. And I'm having a hard time with that because we like the unique beers. Uh-oh. You're a little twisted. Rebecca, could you twist me in a little bit more?
I'm
This way.
I'm picking. I'm getting some kind of.
Oh, wait, no, I'm wrong. That way. Wait. Yep.
Why am I getting tea? I'm picking up on a tea, like a cold tea-ish flavor.
Really? I wasn't getting much of that.
What are you getting?
I was getting absolute grain. Grain, malt.
I'm getting a malted
You know
for
what?
sure, but I'm getting a tea-ish.
Do you know what it was reminding me of? Now that, pardon me, ahem, brew maker myself with the mash and the pot on the stove. Now that I've done it once, I'm now acting all professional.
As you should.
That tastes like the grains as they went in, as they came out. So it doesn't taste
You
like
can
the
smell
malt
the
or the
grain.
mash.
Yeah.
That tastes like the grains. But where we like the slightly oddball stuff, I am absolutely used to. My soul is prepared constantly for my favorite beers going away all of the time.
Right.
So the question, would you miss this beer if you couldn't have it anymore? I'd say it's happened to me so many times, I feel like an empty emotional husk just thinking about this question.
But now we'll be able to tell breweries what type of emotional mess they're going to leave you in if they take this beer out of circulation.
I am going to be a delightful statistic where, again, someone's going to call up and say, were you the one guy who bought this one? Can you come buy the last 5 cans so we can get it out of the dang store?
But that's kind of the way that they can also do that, right? So if they know that you're going to like this beer, let's say it's a tap room that you didn't even know has it on tap, they could then reach out to you and say, hey Ross, we noticed that you love this beer. Why don't you come by the tap room for $1 off a pint on Thursdays?
I would answer that question.
There we go.
Did you tap to compare styles?
It was. Oh, well, I did not. Damn, I didn't do it. However,
so you can show him on that one.
Yeah, I don't know what a Marzen
it
is.
hits all. We had a Marzen fairly recently.
It would have probably been an Oktoberfest beer,
Yeah. We this is right in the ballpark to the Old Speckled Hen or the Theakson's Old Peculiar that I used to drink in Yorkshire.
Wow.
It's a British style bitter, but it's slightly florally as well. It's got.
Well, it's got to be that then, isn't it? How is it not that?
Sorry, I thought I was telling you exactly what it was.
Now you guys are both on
And it said, would you have this again? I'm like, oh, 100%. This is what I would drink this till the cows come home.
But when
It's 5.2.
When I read through the descriptions of a Marzen and a strong bitter,
Yes.
the descriptions of a Marzen hit
More than the okay.
descriptions of the strong bitter.
And this is where we think that this can be a really valuable tool for tap rooms or liquor stores to have as well, because it engages a completely different level of conversation than you might normally have with someone about the beers, right?
Yeah.
So why is it this style? What makes it this, why is this not a Kolsch versus a Pilsner or a Blonde Ale versus a Blonde Lager? Like, this is the kind of, things that, for places that really pride themselves on training their staff on knowing their products, this just kind of takes it to a different level where now they can really, have a different type of conversation with someone who's doing this tasting and say, well, actually, this is why it's an ESB versus Mars.
Yes.
I told you about this one, but I didn't get to drink it because when I went to the Science of Beer event where I met Luke, I went up to a booth. And there's some guys saying, oh, and I'm like, who are you? Oh, yeah, we're the arcade brewery here. There's a little arcade game here to play. And I'm like, oh, okay. I booped on that for a few seconds. And I'm looking at their cans, and I saw the word peculiar. And I said, ooh, this is the most amazing thing that's in the entire room. Give me this. And they said, we didn't get our liquor license in. So we're here just in kind of, here we are.
Just to say hi.
But we can't let anyone drink every. I believe my exact response was, please? Please,
I grew up on that
have
stuff,
your
by the way.
peculiar
That was my go-to.
Yeah.
Was that style of beer. And I
Yeah.
drank it forever. Until I came to Canada, and then things went a little bit differently. But it's nice to know that we can still get it. I maintain this, that the Propeller's ESB is still, for me, a go-to when I want that style of beer.
Right.
It takes some knocking, that does. It takes some whacking.
Yeah,
We've
yeah.
come close. There's a couple we've had in the last year or so. We've said for the English style extra strongs, that's bloody good. But to get a 6-pack of that or a 4-pack of that down the liquor store, and because it's always there.
It is.
It's always
nice.
there, and I
That's-
can always pick it up.
I would tell them, if this went away, would you miss it? Yes.
Yeah, I already did. I already said that. Yeah, if that went away, yeah, I don't think I'd go for the
And then I
double.
got it wrong, so someone's going to be wondering about that one.
Moving on.
Beer F.
Yeah.
Now here's the trick. F is the far right.
Oh, yes.
I is the third one.
Yes.
You might have wrote it down in different orders on yours, maybe. So this is I. Do you
So F, I have is this one.
yeah, if I have is that one as well.
So do we go back and try? You're on.
I already did. Yeah, I already started on I. I've done so many that I can't help myself.
That's
But
right. I think I went to the
You've
F.
already started F. Fine, I'll stick.
Yes.
I'll stick with you.
and I'll join you on F too. So I haven't answered I yet. Though.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were going to.
Okay, now we're getting into.
I mean, we could have gone back. Does the app let you go back before you've...
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
let's
yeah.
go back then, because then we'll get with Luke.
Okay.
Okay? Let's just press
Not doing
the
phrasing anymore.
one.
That's-
The I. Wow, this is intuitive.
Start thing.
Okay.
Do you notice any fruity aromas?
I bet we do. Oh.
You know? I thought I was gonna.
Yeah, I thought it was as well.
More of a floral. Yeah. Vegetal, is that a word?
Vegetal or herbal?
But it's I've never heard the word vegetal in my life before.
I have an English degree and I have no idea. So goes to tell you what kind of education I got.
Vegetal, herbal, I'm not getting the herb. Multi-aromas. Oh, I should have hit mate.
Yeah, I just
These are
yeah.
the
So we've got
maybes.
maybe
They're
so
maybes.
for some of like the ones where you're not 100% sure, we have the maybe option, but
And I've been doing that for quite a bit.
yeah, because I'm like I think.
Yeah, I know.
But again, this is all kind of valuable information too that we can provide back to the breweries and say, hey, you're advertising this beer with these characteristics, but people in blind tastings are picking up this and this, so
Yeah.
maybe you choose a different way.
And
of
you are
describing it.
definitely, when you read, I don't know if Ross is the same as me, and I'm sure you are as well, Luke. Sometimes the can itself will sell you on whether you're going to buy it or not while you're reading the description or online. And if it says, this has got subtle notes and you'll pick up this and that, almost subconsciously your mind is searching for those things and you can find them even without, it's through the power of suggestion,
Right.
just because you're reading it. Now, with a blind tasting, and it's asking you whether you do or not, this is really useful because I'm like, I don't know. If it said it smells of peach, then I might be searching for it. Go, yes, I've got a peachy smell there,
Right.
even though I maybe not necessarily do. It's just putting in the power of suggestion.
Exactly. And that's, again, why we like do everything blind, right?
Yep.
We don't want people searching for things that others have told
Yep.
them about. So even though we're all doing this together, we're all having our own individual experience with our beers.
Taste is all subjective anyway. And we mention that sometimes where when we try something we get a big mouthful, we say, oh, do you feel that at the back of your teeth, or do you feel that at the sides of your mouth, or sticks to the roof of your mouth that's really thick going down the back of your throat?
The retronasal, so when we initially started our very first like format of tastings, we were doing them all as IPA tastings. So we would do 6 Nova Scotia IPAs, and we would have people rank them from which one they enjoyed the most to which one they enjoyed the least. We would then take those rankings and run them through Jeff's algorithm. The algorithm would choose 2 additional IPAs that they hadn't tried, and then we would bring out the last 2 samples with a red coaster and a green coaster. We would have people try both the beers, and then of the 2, the one that they preferred over the other would flip the coaster. If the coaster was green, it would mean that the algorithm guessed correctly. If it was red, it's only 6 beers. We can't learn a lot off of just that, so it would mean that the algorithm needed more information.
Are you going to tell us what the results were?
We were just under 80% for accuracy, and that was probably only a couple hundred people that we had done at that point. So Jeff was, I wouldn't say, I was thrilled because I was like, 80% in my world, that's incredible. I was like, I'm an art student. But for him, he was like, no, it's performing too well. We need to challenge it more. We need to, and so.
Well, I'm assuming the reason why you went for the IPAs is because there's so many of them. The propensity of the damn things are all over the place, and they're always changing. And there's different kinds of the IPAs as well. So that you've got, I love the idea.
And then it was a little more segmented. I mean, obviously, if people didn't like IPAs, they probably weren't going to come to our tasting. So then we started to move out of just IPAs, and we started to incorporate other styles. And we initially had been just doing them in the style variety to begin with. So we have a stout blind tasting or an IPA blind tasting. And theoretically, you could still run those if you wanted to at a tap room. You could break them down by segment or style, but we think it's kind of more fun, again, to organically expose people to different styles of beer.
Yeah. I mean, it's what we do. It's what we force ourselves to do as well. Where sometimes we say, oh, I'm probably not going to like this. We even have nights where we say, I'm definitely not going to enjoy this. Let's get through it. And then we find ourselves finding something that's really enjoyable.
Well, I mean, you did that. Funny enough, Luke said 6. That night we sat around at your place, there were 6 fellas and we had 6 IPAs, different ones, and a couple of hours worth of video as well. And we certainly, I mean, there were some IPA fans there. And at the time, this is 2 or 3 years ago, Ross and I weren't really IPA fans. Like I said, we've come late to the party to the IPA scene. But we had definitely had 2 or 3 IPA fans.
But it was that moment of, hey!
Yes, there was one. There were 2 or 3 that I was like, yeah, this just confirms I'm not into IPAs. And at the other end, there was a couple we were like, actually, I quite like that one. So we could say, we might not like those ones, but this one here, it's getting on for what we consider at least
and we found the same reaction. There'd be someone always dragged to one of the tastes, I don't do IPAs, but then they'd be like, I'll try one, and then, that was pretty good.
Wasn't bad.
And then again, there's all these different styles, and what we want to do as well, with what you're talking about, where you've done kind of these versions of tastings before, with the app now, people can set these up to run themselves at home. So let's say if you were getting together with a few friends, Ross could get 6 beers, put them into the app, and then as you all show up to the tasting, he could be pouring you the samples and running the tasting himself, and then conversely the next week you could bring 5 beers.
Did you say this is available already?
Yeah, the one caveat that we're missing is just our sleeve covers. So we have sleeve covers. They're not very pretty, but we're in the process right now of sourcing some really nicer, more high-end ones so that people can cover the cans. So that way you could be able to pour the beers into sample sizes in front of people. So let's say you're at home, you've got 4 beers into your tasting that night. You could all start together with beer M, and so Ross would go back to the fridge, grab beer M, bring it out, pour 4 glasses. Everyone goes through, tries it. Beer X is next. He goes back to the fridge, gets beer X, and so that's kind of the way we're envisioning it running at home as well for a lot of people that do what you do, where you can do it at home as well.
I'm excited to start excited about this.
I really am.
I'm excited too.
And you can send your kits because it's all app or you can just send it across the country or even to the States?
Yeah, like we initially started prototyping our kits with like a flight handle with glassware, and it was just like, okay, these are going to be like $40, $50 for people to purchase. Like, if they don't really know who we are, how are we going to kind of get that kind of buy-in? So now, essentially, all you need is just your own glassware at home, and then the sleeve covers that we're currently sourcing. We're looking at maybe doing like neoprene ones too, to have them almost be like koozies. And then you could just have little clips. So what I've done for the few that we prototyped is just use a little safety pin that has like a little tag on it, and then I just write the letters on the tag.
Yeah.
And so it'd be letter D, O, X, and Y, and then they just create the tasting with those 4 letters, and you're ready to go.
I don't know if you saw my bad Photoshop.
That's a great Photoshop.
It was. I think I looked up black cans.
That's
Because I remember it had the black cozies on them when you were pouring them at the Science of Beer exhibit, and I wanted to portray. I kind of wanted to capture what I did that night in the picture. It took me all of 2 minutes. I want you to get to question 15 so bad.
Oh, well, I'm only on 7. I've been listening so intently to what Luke was saying. I lost my way there.
Sip and listen. It's all
Yeah, okay, carry on. You carry on. Sweet. Well, while I am sort of finishing this up, I wonder what Luke's own. You said right at the outset that your penchant for beers. Where's your taste?
What's your Khuva Labs score? You can say it B+.
You know what's funny, because I've set up so many tastings myself that like oftentimes I've known what the beers are going into it, but even then like I'll still forget which beer is which, so I can kind of blind it for myself well enough. But I would say my preferred style.
Yep.
I really I love session IPAs. Like, I didn't even know that was a type of beer. Because, like, I love IPAs, but again, some of them I can only drink 1 or 2 of. Session IPA, I could have 3 or 4 of and not feel that kind of same after effects, I guess, if you will. And then stouts. I'm a huge fan of stouts.
Yes.
So those are...
That's interesting, isn't it? To go from IPAs and stouts.
I
know. That sums me up as a person probably as well.
Hoppy and malty.
Yeah.
What question did you want to
I like lagers and Belgian
Question
clogs.
15.
Oh, I'm at 11 now, so I've really rustled.
Well, what I could follow up on that in A, pointing out Brigham and Bark up in Port Williams, they just opened in the last 6 months or so.
Yeah.
One of their IPAs is a session IPA, and so Steve invited us to try because we tried their flagship 3, and the IPAs weren't out yet. So he came back on our show and we tried the 3 IPAs, the session, the IPA, and the big IPA, which is not quite strong enough for double, and all 3 non-IPA lovers.
And Steve knows what so Steve actually came to one of our first tastings when we were doing the IPA.
Speaking of dad, there's a guy who loves his dad as well.
So he was at church when he initially came to the first one, and hilariously enough, the algorithm just happened to pick the Church 902 IPA as one of the 2 for his final ones. Nothing that we did on our end.
Okay.
So it was very kind of like I could see him like. Like, is this one of my beers? And I was like, oh god, he's gonna think we're like. I was like, he's gonna think we're pandering to him. But yeah, again, he's also just tried 5 or 6 other IPAs, so he's like, what the hell's going on here?
How can you not recognize your own child? Okay.
Before I answer that question, which is really weird,
It is.
I love it. I love it. I really do love that. However, I had a real problem here with one of the questions. It said, would you want to order another one? Do you want to have... No, I beg your pardon. The word I'm having a problem is multiple beers. Would you like multiple?
Right.
No, I don't want multiple, but I would have one more.
Right.
Because that's what I mean. How much is Absolutely, because it's so thick and rich, and it's kind of... It's got a heavy mouthfeel to me as well. Is it a blueberry ale, or is it a dark sour? I'm surprised at both of those.
It has to be.
There's no blueberry in it.
No, it can't be that. So whatever the second
But the
one is,
sour, I'm like, I've got
know
no
what dark
sour of
is,
this.
but it has to be that, right?
Try this.
And that is kind of the dichotomy we run into in trying to select the corresponding style. So when we have the style of the beer entered in, what the algorithm tries to do is find another style similar to that one to compare it against, just to make it, So obviously for fruited sour, the
Tart blueberry.
If
with
someone
hints
had
of
asked me,
chocolate.
I would have said that was a thicker porter. I wasn't I wasn't going into stout territory, although it was getting close. If someone had told me it was a dark, I beg your pardon, if someone told me it was a black IPA, I would have said, fine. But I would,
Cherry porter. Remember
a porter I would certainly have gone for, would
That
have
reminds
been
me of
my
that. So I guess the sour and the fruit flavor.
sour. I'm blown away.
I don't know what a sour is, a dark sour is, but I want more.
Yeah.
Lots of them. So that was.
So they're saying there is blueberry in both.
Yeah.
Well, not in both. I mean, there's only
It
one
was a
there.
very surprising choice at the end. I said, okay, this is going to be a very curious question. Then I said, is this a blueberry ale or a dark sour?
What do you think of that, Rebecca?
Huh?
Did it taste like a sour to you? Dark sour.
I was trying to think of where we were not quite accusing you of having a difficult time, but you mentioned having a difficult time because you know the answer sometimes.
Right.
And what we do every now and then, especially if we're having an IPA night, where we say, okay, one, I don't really like/appreciate this style, so we have to try to put ourselves in the feet of someone who would really like an IPA. So we're there, and we're having, like, okay, and sip this, we think, oh, yeah, there's, okay, the really bitter and the funny, the hop flavors right there, and it's all there. Okay, good. I hate this, but an IPA lover, this is definitely up there. So he gives me a hard time because I said, this is a top tier IPA. And he says, but it's gross. And I said, yeah, I don't like it at all. I don't want to be anywhere near this. But this is a very well done for what I understand. So putting myself in the shoes of someone who's like, yeah, I love IPAs.
right.
Is this their beer?
If someone buys beer, like I said earlier, on the strength of what they read on the can, and you get the exact experience through drinking it that it says on the can, then you would say to yourself, well done, you've delivered what you've said you're delivering. And if you're buying it based on that, you can't help but give it top marks, even though it might not be the greatest thing, the tastiest thing for us.
Not my favorite, but they nailed it.
Yep.
And that happens to us now.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's you're kind of saying all the things that we're trying to incorporate into the evolution of this as well.
And you've got PhDs in algorithms, and we're just two idiots with a couple of,
No, we're the customers that are like really into the idea of what they're doing.
Or are we customers?
I'm a customer. Well, I'm a customer.
We're all
a
customers.
potential customer of this little software package that might appear on. I was going to say on the doormat. This isn't Amazon. Onto my phone.
All the kids came around again watching software all over the doormat. These damn kids
Stepped in the software again.
tweets off my lawn.
That won't come out with soda water. That's going to be. I got a proper stain removal for that.
This is wow.
Yeah, I know. Is that
Quite different.
Yep. Of course, it's a fruity aroma.
Yeah,
I'm
I think
gonna-
it is. I think it's a fruity aroma.
Floral aroma.
Yeah, it's got fruity.
Herbal. Yes. Malty aroma.
No.
That's
Herbal?
okay. Body and fullness. Here we go.
Really? I think this is an IPA, mate.
Smells like one.
I've not tasted it yet.
Oh,
Oh, you look surprised.
I am.
We also used to do all of our tastings with crackers. So we would have like unsalted white crackers to like try to help people reset their palates as well.
Oh, we've been through this.
That became a little more difficult logistically to do as we expanded across. My house was covered in
It's
crackers.
just bringing plus all over the place.
We were just going for boring old H2O, thinking that cleansed your palates, but you're saying crackers, like
Unsalted, like
soda crackers.
We're doing that, and then you switched to peanuts, and now you have peanuts all the time.
Oh, and everything tastes of peanuts.
One of our brewers that we talked to, I wish I could remember which, but they recommended, they said, oh, if I ever want to cleanse my palate in between, I just drink a lager or something else. I said, so pardon me, a beer is a cleanser between beers?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to sell me on this concept.
I haven't heard that one, but that sounds like a better idea than unsalted crackers.
Pardon me, I'll just try this nice malty
And
red
also
ale.
smelling coffee grounds is good for resetting your factory senses.
Oh,
That's a new word I picked up in doing all.
that is a,
Wow, smooth!
Very
I remember the day I learned the word olfactory.
Yeah.
And I have used it several times, and you always sound really fancy. It's a good
Oh,
one.
the mouthfeel. Fullness of the
That
beer.
is,
Yeah, it's so... It's
But the
really
smell,
full-bodied.
it is not what the smell is saying. Body fullness, lively and bubbly.
I'm there as well. At least we're going through this one the same.
Good,
Same
it only
pace.
took us 4 to get slightly
We saved it for the science predicted all of this.
science.
I debunk science.
Lively and bubbly. Sweetness. This is, it's not a sweetness. The sweetness is all in the malt.
It's so smooth. There's no liveliness and bubbliness to this, but it's all full-bodied. Describe the sweetness of this beer.
Dudes, bitterness, come on. Sourness.
I didn't get any sour.
The smell of it. And
I-
I thought it was going to be.
And I guessed incorrectly at the end too. So
It's your app.
I know. Well, I'm not the coder, remember?
I get it. I'm just the presentation.
But like, we're trying to also kind of gauge which sort of model kind of yields the highest results for us right now. So like we've done craft beer fests, we've done solo brewery nights or one-off events at breweries and taps.
The software on feedback, or if you've been to an event and saying, take notes away and say, hey, we might look at this, etc., and then maybe add a little.
Yeah, like a lot of our latest update came from feedback from one of the persons that we did an at-home prototype with, Ryan Gulliver, who's a local craft beer aficionado. He's someone who's been to a few of our tastings prior to this, so we were like, hey, we're going to drop off a mystery tasting for you at home, and he was like, oh, this was great, but it was done super fast. Like, we didn't have kind of all of these different questions and all of these different things. He's like, I'd like to have the capability to kind of get a little more granular, a little more, deeper into the taste that I'm picking up with this beer. And so that kind of feedback for us is super valuable. I mean, there was feedback that you gave us at the Science of Craft Beer Festival. So like at this point, we're so early on that like any type of feedback or any things that we notice from the people that are doing these are extremely valuable for us in making subtle tweaks and changes. And the fact that it is our own internal team that's doing it right now makes it a little bit better instead of having to write a check or send money to someone that's doing it off-site, charging us a bunch of money every time we want to do an update. Eventually, we'll have like an iOS version of the app or an Android version of the app, but right now, like things are functioning and working really nicely with the web application. And as we expand into sort of like our offers tab, which will be where we'll have offers for you based on beers that you've tried and said that you liked, and then beers that you haven't tried yet that we think you'll like. And so whether you're here in Nova Scotia or ideally, let's say you go to BC for the weekend or Ontario, you can walk into an LCBO or walk into a liquor store, and at that liquor store, if they're working with us, be able to see which beers at that liquor store might be most suited to your own taste preferences. So you can make your own little tasting pack as you leave, as I'm sure you already do at a lot of the liquor stores anyway. Like I love going into a Rockhead, for example, by my place and picking 4 or 5 tall boys and throwing them in and doing kind of my own version of tastings at home. So there'll be all kinds of different ways from a consumer aspect down the road where people will be able to, be exposed to beers in whatever manner suits their preferences best, right? Some people like going out, like being in the tap rooms, want to be around people. Other people are more comfortable and suited to doing these at home. So it's like we want to be able to kind of meet people wherever they're most comfortable for doing this.
Are we losing you in the camera? Do you need to come this way a bit more?
Have I moved again?
Yeah, there you go. You're in.
Perfect.
That's weird. Do I keep moving? Do I keep falling?
We'll just, we'll slowly pivot around the entirety of the establishment.
I think it's
We're just orbiting the table.
Do you think this beer is balanced? Oh, yes.
Incredibly.
Would you buy this beer again? Yes. Could you see yourself enjoying multiple pints of this beer in one sitting? It's always a tough question, that, isn't it?
So maybe we need like an in-between answer for that one. That is giving you kind of pause at
A couple
two
of
different
times.
beers now, right? So it's like, is it as black and white as
One
saying
and
yes or
done,
no?
multiple.
just to keep it coming.
Yeah.
Would I order another? Yes. Would I sit here, and you mentioned it earlier on, you love a session IPA. Could I sit here of an evening for 4 hours and drink 6 or 7 of these? I don't think so. And that to me is multiple, yes. So, I don't know. I would order another one.
Right, but probably stop at 2, maybe 3.
It's so smooth. It's quite full. It's quite filling, actually. Very cereally, very
I'm very torn.
bready. You like that word?
Yes,
Bready.
it's very bready. I'm very torn on the final one. So
I know. Are you guys going to guess on this together? I think that would be.
Oh, okay.
I'm good there. Now considering the fact
I'm
that
going to
you
say
guys-
yes, even though.
Don't let that.
That's a fact.
Again, I have my disclaimer right off the bat where I don't have the strongest of palate.
I think I'm now quadruple guessing. Mike.
What's this style of beer?
What
Okay,
do
we are.
what do you got?
Oh, it's classic, isn't it? Is it? They're both.
Right?
Well, we
Okay.
said we went off the bat and said it was an IPA, so at least we got that right.
2, 3, vote.
I'm going for a double. Yeah.
There we
Definitely
go.
wasn't. Yeah, it was.
Finishing on a positive note.
7.2%.
Citrusy punch. It was so malty.
It's good, isn't it?
That was
Dipper?
BME.
Tiny dipper?
Yeah, that's from the
Horton Ridge.
Horton Ridge, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All of their stuff. And I love their stuff, but the thing is, I have learned that if I have a malty beer, I can't have a second one.
Well, and that's again where those questions we're trying to kind of
Isn't it?
Which is
hone in on, and then with that data too, tap rooms can use at their own kind of discretion what time of year they should have certain beers on, or help kind of go into like sort of picking the right times and right ways to advertise when they do put those beers on tap somewhere. So if that beer came back on tap at Tapestry 3 months from now, and you're like, oh, you know what, that one, that B&Me from Horton Ridge, that'd be great to have again. All of a sudden you get a notification on your phone. Hey Ian, now available on tap again at Tapestry is this Horton Ridge that you had before, the B&Me. Would you like to come in and try one? So again, like, they can, bring a beer back onto the tap list and then have a list of people already that they can notify, saying, hey, this is back available on tap, because this might not be available in the liquor store, or it might be a bit more arduous to try to find if it's not available for online purchase. So we want to be able to kind of connect people to the beers as well that they're suited to enjoy.
This might be in our stock still. They're all 355s, aren't they? They're in the cans. The Horton Ridges, I think.
Did I get the dipper?
I wonder it, because you've got 6 or 7 of them, and we've gone through one. So he's going to bring up his pie charts now, Venn diagrams, his benchmarks. I did ask.
You asked. So
I do
have
find
to
myself.
show
I'm
how
actually.
it's
I'm still getting further around it. We're going to be sitting on your lap
Yep.
in about I don't know 5 minutes before this beer is
Also
finished.
not uncommon after some of these beer tastings. People sitting in other people's laps.
I might not have updated the. So this is what we've got waiting to
Oh, I
go.
love that.
And then this is everything that we've tasted, and then my absolute favorite is our charts.
Wow.
So based on what we've tried.
As a fellow Google
I was going to
Sheeter,
say,
this is great.
as a fellow what?
Google Sheets? Is this Google Sheets?
I was going to say
Google Sheets.
Okay, yeah.
I was going to say, I think you've met your nerd of
12.6% of all the beers we've tried have been stouts.
Wow.
And that's the highest.
Yeah.
I guess if we could plug and play this data into the app somehow, eventually down the road, just add all your own.
I'll rub mine there.
It's a tough choice, but I actually think this is my favourite of the night, and it's another double IPA. I didn't love the Belgian triple, weirdly, because I did not
You
love
thought it was
it.
too sour. I thought it was very interesting.
It was interesting, don't get me wrong.
And I appreciated that part as well. Everything was unpredictable and interesting. Well, Ian's choices, we need to go over and I'll show you the taps because there's so much creative
Most
serious
diverse
stuff.
tap selection for sure.
Cool, so amazing, just amazing stuff. And I think when I came in here to talk to him, the first thing he plopped down in front of me was this hazy triple IPA. That was the smoothest, just easiest, creamiest thing to drink ever. It was so good. And it was the orange triple from, it was an unfiltered. He had a number of unfiltereds on it.
In ones, some
Oh,
of the
yeah,
ones that he's
filtered, yes.
brewing too with Sack Vegas are incredible as well.
I'm hoping that he's got a little bit of that on. We have to go
He did a New England IPA, I think, one of the last times we were in here, and I'm a huge fan of. Recently discovered how much I like New England IPAs because of the alternate reality.
Oh, that's wonderful, the multi-turner
And
reality.
so when I had Ian's, I was like, oh my goodness, this is right up there with my reaction for the alternate. So then, like, that's the great thing. Like, yeah, I said I'd say my top 2 are session IPAs, and stouts, but like all these other different.
I'm glad he's 45 minutes away because otherwise I would be more broke than I could. I would just spend all my time here trying all the stuff that he's got.
Is there a hotel there?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just leave it the Irving.
Would be first.
No.
That was awesome. I really enjoyed this.
Good. I'm very glad. Thank you guys so much for having me on. to
Thank
talk
you, Luke.
about what we're
And
doing.
if you need more information, you can go over to Khuva Labs.
KhuvaLabs.com.
KHUVA Labs, if you don't know how to spell Khuva.
Yeah, and then if you want to see where we're doing tastings, you can head to taste.KhuvaLabs.com.
Oh, it's
and
got-
that will
yeah.
show you all of the locations that we have that we're working with to run tastings. And then also, once you have the app downloaded or you created your own profile, you can also run tastings at home or with your friends or anything that you want to do with that.
Guess what we're doing fairly soon.
Kind of expansion going. Having a fondue night and a Khuva Labs to go with it.
Perfect.
Nice.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thank you very much.
So much.
Thank you very much. So we're here every Wednesday night, approximately 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, Ian and I, and we talk to everybody. I don't think we've got anything going on next week, but you can check us out on all the podcasting locations, Drink NS Dry, and everywhere except Google because they got rid of it. And then the youtube.com/@DrinkNSDry. Then we're on the Instagram and the TikToks and the whatnot, and I upload things every now and then. But thank you for joining us. Thank you again to Luke for being here, Ian to being here, Rebecca for getting us here. Okay, I'm gonna buy her something nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, so hopefully we'll see you next week. Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.